Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Mark, aka the FPL General, to reveal his Game Week 8 team. Welcome Mark, how are you?
I'm very well, Joe. Good to be back for another video. Yeah, these game weeks are flying by. Game week 8 on the horizon, but yeah, unfortunately, a dreaded international break to get through.
Yeah,
The first Monday I feel of an international break is always an incredibly long day, so hopefully it goes by quickly.
definitely. But I mean, I've used a transfer this week. Got Brennan Johnson in against my team Brighton. It's a perfect result for me. Brighton victory, Brennan Johnson points. But that does mean that I go into international break with just the one free transfer for next week. No particular plans, so it's going to be a very long and boring 2 weeks for me. For you, how many transfers? Before we look at your team, how many transfers have you got going into this
Yeah,
break?
I saved this week, so I've got two.
Okay, so yeah, you might have some decisions to make. You've got choices to make there. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at Mark's early thoughts for Game Week 8. We'll be back again next week for a bit more sort of firmer thoughts around the Game Week 8. We'll look back at Game Week 7, so we'll do that in this show rather than next week. And we'll also look a bit beyond. We'll look at the fixture ticker. We've got a particular eye this week on Semenyo replacements. Those like Mark who've gone for a sort of a 3-5-2 setup or a setup whereby you've got a cheap player that you don't want to play. In Mark's case, it's a striker. I can't remember who it is. And in other cases, it might be, say, Harry Winks or someone. And you've got Semenyo. You might want to be replacing him. So we'll look at some replacements there. And we'll also take stock of those between the sticks. Both of us have Flecken, and obviously we're both delighted with that choice that we're already thinking of moving on from. Okay, before we do that, we'll just a reminder, do press that like button, and also do remember to subscribe, keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. Also, do check out the members area at Fantasy Football Scout. All the stats that I've created here through tables are all from that members area. You can create your own tables as well. Okay, let's have a look back at Game Week 7. So Green Arrow, 55 points. Do you want to take me through your team and successes, highs and lows?
Yeah, so this is a team fresh off a game week 6 wild card. So it's had two game weeks and it's halved my rank, which is good. I think I was 1.2 million when I played the wild card. Now roughly 600k. So that feels fine, given it's been a fairly tricky start to the season for a lot of managers. Didn't make a move going into the weekend, so it was Flecken in goal, Trent, Saliba, and Gabriel at the back. So not much there again, apart from Trent. The double Arsenal defence on the wild card has not worked so far. Midfield five, Cole Palmer, Saka did the business, Semenyo, Mbumo, and Rodgers. And then up front, Captain Haaland blanked, and Calvert-Lewin also blanked. And then my bench is very, very weak. It's Mikolenko, Greaves, and that boy Chiwomi. Can't believe you didn't remember his name, Joe. He's a
Yeah,
superstar in the making.
he's a staple in all our teams. There are a lot of he's Wolves, isn't he? He's a Wolves
Yeah.
strike. There are a lot of Wolves attackers that get more minutes than him. That we might be interested in as their fixtures improve, but also with Kuna, who I have penciled in a couple of weeks to bring in. He's actually scoring in the tough fixtures as well. So, looking at your team here, what do you think are the main issues that you would like to resolve by game week 8?
Yeah, so I've got the two free transfers, so there is options on the table. The Semenyo position was always a 2 week wild card punt because two really good fixtures, got one goal, we'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always an eye to move him on then because the fixtures really turn now. I think they might have Arsenal next. So Semenyo will go for someone. It's just a question of is it one free transfer and a like for like price replacement, or is it part of a double transfer where maybe Semenyo could be upgraded financially by dropping something else down. So it's so early in international break, an injury or something could dictate what I do with Semenyo.
Yeah.
If an expensive asset gets injured, it might be someone expensive coming in. So yeah, just gonna chill out for the break. But yeah, that Semenyo position I'm definitely looking at. Longer term as well. I think I mentioned it last week. We talked about Rico Lewis and Gvardiol. That Saliba could go to one of those, and then it opens the door for David Raya. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about goalkeepers later.
Yeah, definitely. I've got Rico Lewis in my team, so I'm very pleased that he got an assist. But clean sheets, they're just so hard to come by, even with the big teams, the so-called reliable teams for them. Arsenal, who'd have predicted that they would concede against Leicester and Southampton? And then also with Man City as well. Crazy, well, I mean, arguably they should have conceded more against Fulham. But yeah, once again, I have Rico Lewis, and I got him for the assists, I think, rather than clean sheets. But yeah, he is cheaper than your existing back line, so could be a good purchase. Let's have a look at the fixtures. So next 7, which shows what's happening with Semenyo and Bournemouth. So they've just come off with 2 good fixtures. They're second bottom of the fixture ticker now. They've got Arsenal and Aston Villa and Man City, a nasty 3. But then from game week 11, they've got Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, Tottenham. And so it goes on. It's a sea of blue until Easter, I think. So for me, I've got a structure where I've got Semenyo, Rodgers and Chris Wood in a sort of one of them's going to be benched each week. I happen to have benched 2 goals so far, but that's just the way it happens. But as a result, I don't need to worry about Semenyo. I'm just going to bench him, and Chris Wood's going to come in.
Yeah.
Who's in an annoying pattern where he scores, doesn't score, scores, doesn't score. He's in that pattern where he doesn't score next week, apparently, according to the science of that. But nevertheless, yeah, Liverpool are the bottom of the ticker, but I think I mentioned this on my video for my team review. I don't agree with this. So they've got Chelsea at home. That's fine for their attackers and their defenders. Arsenal away, that's tough. Brighton at home, brilliant. Aston Villa at home, brilliant. Southampton away, brilliant. Then they do have Man City at home. Well, that's not so bad. We've just seen Fulham score against them. And then Newcastle away. So I don't think the fixtures are that bad. So I think the fixture ticker gurus have probably, I think they made a bit of an error with Liverpool down there. But nevertheless, Everton, Leicester, Ipswich, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Manchester United. I raised my eyebrows again, as I've been told not to, but there again, they keep, this week they fielded Maguire and Evans. Evans is their best player. That's why I'm raising my eyebrows. Anyway, Crystal Palace, Manchester United, Fulham, fixtures improve. Wolves fixtures really improve from game week 9. Although they do have City next. City's fixtures are pretty good. Tottenham's are really good up until game week 12. And then, well, actually, they're good at all of these up to 14. It's just game week 12 they got Man City, but pretty good fixtures elsewhere. So, yeah, looking at this, what are your sort of thoughts about sort of future moves? Not just game week 8, but sort of in the future.
Yeah, I think just to touch on your Liverpool point as well, it is important when you're looking at fixture tickers that it's very different when you see a Liverpool at the bottom of ticker versus an Ipswich. You take it with a bit of a pinch of salt because if you see Liverpool, City, or Arsenal at the bottom of the ticker, it doesn't mean you just completely avoid the players and sell them. I picked up Trent on the wild card knowing these fixtures were coming, and I'll happily play him in every game. Just avoided rotation risk like Diaz and stuff like that. But players like Salah as well are absolutely fine. So back to the top of the ticker, you've got Everton there. And Semenyo versus McNeil was a close call anyway on the wild card, so that was always one that I knew I could do. Similar prices. I think I've got 0.1 in the bank, so that's probably my most obvious move. I always say if the deadline was in 5 minutes, I would probably just use one free transfer. Keep it simple. Semenyo out, Dwight McNeil in. You've got 6, 7 fixtures there where you can play him every week. Lots of routes to points, having a very good season. Elsewhere, Leicester, Ipswich, I don't have too much interest there. I do really like Leif Davis, but I just didn't have enough cash, so I went for Mikalenko instead. Brentford, I've got Mbeumo, I've got Flecken. Don't really want a third one.
Yeah.
Palace and United, again, not having the best of seasons either, so I'm not in a rush there. But then you've got Fulham next on the list, and Smith Rowe, again, was another player that was in my mind when I made the Semenyo decision. I like him in that spot. He's a little bit more expensive, I think, but it's doable. I probably like Smith Rowe more in your setup when you've got a 3-way rotation rather than having to play him every week, because there's going to be a couple of tricky ones. But I do still have a lot of faith in Smith Rowe to have a good season and be good value. And then we get to Wolves. I'm like you. I'm very much eyeing up Cunha. I just really like him as a striker, and I've been waiting patiently for game week 9. Around that point to look to bring him in. So if Calvert-Lewin continues to disappoint, Cunha will just take that spot in the near future.
Yeah, interesting with Arsenal's fixtures. So they've got Bournemouth away, that's absolutely fine. But then they got Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, Chelsea away, and then they've got Nottingham Forest at home, West Ham, Manchester United. So it gets better. So they've got this nasty group of 3. So Arsenal assets are ditchable, but I think if you've got Gabriel, keep as someone who's experienced keeping Gabriel through tough fixtures, keep him because Saka assist, Gabriel header that happened twice in two tough fixtures. I think that could happen again, and they might rely on that more. But you like your Havertz or maybe Saka as well if you think he's not going to do exceptionally well in those games. They are ditchable, and then that comes at the same time as, say, for example, some of these cheaper teams. Wolves, for example's fixtures get better. So yeah, for me, I've got Havertz. I'm looking at Havertz, just a simple Havertz Sakuna, and that'll give me some money in the bank to possibly get Salah in game week 10, who is going to be, I think, ignored from. This is a good question for you. Your setup has Palmer and Saka. I don't know if, and you've got Haaland as well. Game week 10, Salah has Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home, good fixtures, Southampton away. It's a really good, nice run. If you want Salah, how do you get him? Or do you just not want Salah?
I think it's most likely going to be a case of just sticking with Palmer and Saka. I've got
Good
so
news.
much faith in those two, regardless of fixtures. And even going from Saka or Palmer to Salah, you still need a fair chunk of cash to make it actually happen. Two and a half million or whatever it is. So I've kind of just made peace with the fact that Mohamed Salah might not be in my team much this season. But we see it season after season. People end up, in the top 10, top
Yeah.
100, top 1,000, going without really good players who score really well. You don't need everyone. But again, I'll just cross the bridge around game week 10. The fixtures game week 10 don't scream I need to go and get Salah. Brighton home, Villa home. Yeah, it's good, but it could also be better.
Okay.
Then you've got City not too far afterwards. And again, Palmer and Saka don't have amazing fixtures on paper at that point either, but is it worth a transfer and probably a downgrade somewhere else to get Salah? And at the moment, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
But again, I'll see when I get there.
But what would you say to those like me? And also, there'll be many people watching. I'm not just sort of being selfish about my team, but there'll be many people watching who've got one of Palmer and Saka, and they might have Haaland as well. They probably have, and so would you? I mean, could they could go for a Salah because they won't have one of Palmer or Saka. They won't be sort of tied with those sort of two premiums in midfield.
Yeah, I just really like the consistency that Saka
Okay.
offers. And again, we even seen a bit of explosiveness, against Southampton. And Palmer in my book is almost number one now when it comes to FPL midfielders.
Okay. Wow.
It's like Salah's been the king for a while, but I feel like Palmer's about to take over. And again, I'm biased because I've got him, and I've got I did well out of him the last couple of game weeks, but I still think people don't realize how good he is,
Okay.
and that goes in real life and FPL wise. He's just so good. So yeah, again, I'm being too down on Salah, and I haven't really been in a rush to get him at any point in the season, even though I did have him for a while. Yeah, it's that's the beauty of the game. We've got all these big midfielders. There's no right or wrong answer, and you've got to. It probably whatever's going on in the rest of your team's probably going to dictate
Yeah.
which ones you have. You've
Yeah.
got other issues to deal with. You might not be able to get there, but if you've got the luxury, a lot of people now are sitting on 3, 4, 5 transfers, so much easier in that case, I think, to go for a Salah and then maybe back to one of the others if you've got that luxury. But myself and yourself don't have too many transfers. So, are you very much eyeing up Salah game week 10 then?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at perhaps getting Saka down to Salah. Because I think Salah will score more and he's captainable, as well as Haaland being captainable. But I think Salah at home to Brighton and Aston Villa is captainable, whereas I look at Saka at home to Liverpool, away to Newcastle, away to Chelsea. I don't think he's captainable. So I'd be looking at Saka to Salah and then back again. That's it.
Yeah, I think your squad structure allows for it more easily because you mentioned Havertz to Cunha straight away tells me there's your money for Salah.
Oh yeah, so, yeah.
Whereas if it was me, it would probably need to be Saliba down to a 4-5, and that
Yeah.
probably doesn't even get me there. So I knew going into the wild card that my structure I wasn't fully happy with it, but I really wanted Palmer, and that's kind of the thing I'll need to navigate now next couple of weeks is that my structure's not as flexible as it usually would be. But hopefully I'll manage.
The interesting thing about this is both you and me, we've got very different structures in our team, and I think the last 2 weeks have shown the differences there. So obviously Palmer's huge haul against Brighton, So you and me were sort of similar in the rankings. With still only 10 points between us, but 400,000 places. So I've gone from 1 million to 2 million back to 1 million. And you've gone from 1.2 million over 2 weeks down to 600k, which is so obviously I would say that so far those going with Palmer and Saka and Haaland have won over those who haven't gone for both of Palmer and Saka. And the interesting thing about that is we've got Palmer, Saka, Salah, Haaland, all of them captainable, all of them absolutely brilliant, all of them great FPL assets. No one can own all four. I think there was something I saw, 2% of the top 10k own all four. I would love to see the rest of their team, because I suspect they've got extremely lucky with some very, very cheap players. But 3 is doable. You've done it with 3.
Just
4,
about doable, I think, as well, yeah.
But 4 is tricky. So in a way, you're sort of the odds are in your favour, because you've got 3 of the 4 absolutely great FPL assets, whereas I've only got 2, my structure. So it's interesting how it's all going to pan out, because if Salah and Haaland do well and Saka and Palmer don't do well, there we go, it all turns around again. And that's going to be that's the sort of narrative of the season, I feel, is how you navigate those 4 players.
Yeah, and even I was having a good FPL weekend points wise, but I didn't enjoy Sunday that much because I didn't have Bruno, who I know is highly owned. Ollie Watkins, I don't have, and I don't have any Tottenham attackers. So even though I've got a lot of big hitters that I'm very happy with, there was a lot of potential for pain for me on Sunday, and I was very relieved that Watkins and Bruno didn't do anything. But flip it next week or the week after, Watkins and Bruno will do well, and my arrow will very quickly become red again. So it's a great season, but it's making for a tricky season, that's for sure.
It's good because there's an inbuilt, because I spoke a little bit about how you recover from a mental health, from a mental health perspective from a bad game week on my video last week, and one of the good things about this season is that even more so, it really isn't someone's decision making that is at fault, because you've got these 4 players, you can't have them all, and you're navigating around them, hopefully around the fixtures. But as we see, who would have predicted that Palmer would have got 4 goals against Brighton? Maybe he would have done well, but that well? Who would have predicted Haaland would have blanked recently in good fixtures? So, for example, against Fulham, who would have predicted that? So it's you can use the fixtures to navigate, but it really is down to luck. And I was quite I don't know if you listened to the FPL Optimized podcast with Certep, and so that's very much the analytics FC. But he made a really great point that it was just sort of as an aside, but it was the main point about it. Was talking about Bruno Fernandes and about how the models are still, jumping him, still thinking he's going to do well. And he was a dead horse. But in some ways he was saying, there's certain things, if you look at certain aspects of the game, it was just luck that didn't happen. And that is it. It's luck. And that's all we're doing, whether you're Analytics FC, Grass FC, whichever FC you are. You're just navigating luck. And you can do your best, but luck gets in the way.
Yeah, I was a Bruno owner for a while, and I got out of there. But I think back to game week 1, I'm pretty sure it was, he was through 1-on-1 twice, and I think he hit the keeper both times. He could have had a brace straight off the bat. Again, you talk about people who've maybe coming off another red arrow this week or haven't had a good start to the season. Plenty of people are 5, 6, 7 million ranked at the moment. We always talk about fixtures, and for me, fixtures is number 1. But playing the fixture doesn't guarantee that the fixtures are going to go the way we want to. 2 examples. I went Gabriel Saliba, double Arsenal defence, Leicester, Southampton. Who predicted 0 clean sheets? Not very many people. Look at Aston Villa, can't keep a clean sheet to save their life. They go play Harry Kane, Serge Gnabry, Elise, and keep a clean sheet. So, this is what we're up against. You set yourself up to do well. You won't always do well. Don't overreact when it doesn't go to plan.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's have a look at detail of those Semenyo replacements, because a lot of people will be in this position as well. Even if it's not Semenyo, but maybe it's another midfielder around this price range you don't want. So what I've done is I've got a list of Semenyo replacements. I've sorted this by minutes per expected goal involvement from the Fantasy Football Scout members area, and I've thrown in a couple that are over 6 million, sort of 6.5, in case, like you've got two transfers or people have got money in the bank, they can sort of spare another million or so. So I've included those in there, but they're broadly around the sort of 5.5 or so price point. Top choice, top replacement is Traore. Now, when we did the talisman feature a couple of weeks ago, Traore was the one. So, to your surprise, he's created 11 chances. He's got 2 assists and a goal in all matches. So he's got 3 attacking returns. His minutes per expected goal involvement is the best out of any replacement. He's better than Semenyo even. So perhaps we should have gone for him. Minutes per baseline bonus strong every 7.5 minutes. 6 shots on targets. He started every single game. He only cost 5.1 million. Also, I don't know if you noticed after the Man City game, because he was terrorising. He just basically ended Walker's career and terrorised Man City. And afterwards, Pep Guardiola gave him some advice about scoring to help him. So Traore is the top man at Fulham, and he's getting some free advice from Pep Guardiola. Why aren't you getting him?
If only Pep gave him that little pep talk about 5 years ago. We've all been there with Adama Traore. I remember him in his Wolves days when we had Matt Doherty and Traore and Jimenez. They were all good FPL options. But Traore's always struggled in the final third. He's an absolute machine when he can get there, no problem. But the final product has always been the issue, and I'm sure that's what Pep was talking about. But he's having a very good season, and he always passes the eye test. He's always in dangerous positions. He's creating chances. As we can see here, 11 chances created is really good numbers. Second best on the list. The main reason I'm not going there and no one else is because we've got Mr. Morgan Rogers, who's same price. Rogers was 5 million as well, I think, at the start of the season, and he's just a level above, and he's playing for a better team as well. So although that's arguable at the moment in the Premier League, Traore's I like him as a differential, but he's one of those where you bring him in and you just know he's probably going to frustrate you.
So I was talking about you can't have them all, but perhaps you can have, say, Salah and Palmer, or Salah and Saka and Palmer, all 3 of them, maybe no Haaland, or maybe all 4, if you do look to cut some corners here. And looking at Fulham's fixtures, they've got Aston Villa at home, Everton away, Brentford at home, Crystal Palace away, Wolves at home, Tottenham away, Brighton at home, up to game week 14. I don't even know what it is past then. These are all fixtures where he could get attacking returns and potentially, for defenders, get a clean sheet there. But at 5.1, that would free up another 500,000 or so, just a little bit more in the bank to get maybe a Spurs attacker. So you could afford a Solanke with a bit of money. So I like Traore here because he's sort of a real goals imminent player. Great stats, great on the eye, and I think he's getting returns. He's getting returns as well. 3 returns so far. Yeah,
he's again, we're talking about Semenyo replacements here. There's probably managers out there who are maybe replacing someone else who don't have 5.6 or 5.7 to spend.
Yeah.
But they already have Rodgers and they're looking for another midfielder. And I think Traore probably is next in line in that price bracket. Thomas Soucek's on this list, but I think I prefer Traore for potential upside. Yeah. Traore, I think, even though he doesn't score very often, I think he's got more braces in him than Thomas Soucek has. So he's certainly one to consider, but certainly Rodgers first if you're not there yet.
Okay, next up is Brennan Johnson, player I got in because he was a move I was probably going to do anyway to next week to give me the opportunity to get Salah in if I wanted to. So I just thought I'd bring that forward once I got the Diaz news, the team leaks before. So I was annoyingly waiting till about sort of 10 to 11 for that. He's 6.5, so this is for those like you with 2 free transfers or a little bit more money in the bank. But he's got 2 assists and 3 goals, so it's 5 attacking returns. We've only had 7 games. 6 chances created, 7 shots on target. He looked great against Brighton. Oh, Brian obviously better, but still look good. Minutes per expected goal involvement, second only to Traore in this list. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you mentioned about getting a Spurs attacking asset. I mean, their fixtures look really good. West Ham, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Ipswich next four. Yeah.
I'm clicking some buttons while we're talking here
Okay.
to see if I can afford
Ah.
Semenyo to Brennan Johnson by losing
Wow.
Saliba. And a Saliba replacement, I would have 5.2. So Rico Lewis comes to mind straight away. So it's doable.
Oh,
So
wow. Found your
again,
solution.
yeah, maybe. So I really like Brennan Johnson. I think he's really starting to flourish now at Tottenham. His numbers have been good all season, and obviously it's five games in a row now, maybe six
Yeah.
games in a row in all competitions. He's hitting the back of the net, and I really liked him at Forest, and I wasn't surprised to see Tottenham swoop in, and I think Postecoglou has. Having watched Postecoglou a lot, as a Celtic fan, those wingers are so important and key to everything that the team does. So Johnson looks great, and yeah, even just clicking those few buttons to see what it looks like. Lose Saliba to get Brennan Johnson, get Rico Lewis, who's looking the part, and I even might have a little bit of change left over after that. Zero point 0.5, zero point 0.6. So it'll just be a case of, do I want to use two frees in 2 weeks' time, or do I want to keep trying to bank one? But that seems like a no-brainer to
Yeah.
me. I got double Arsenal defense for the two very good fixtures. Now the fixtures are more difficult. I absolutely hate Flecken in goal, and losing Saliba opens the door to David Raya, who was the initial plan, but I
Okay.
was one of those that
Yeah.
just didn't take the chance because of the doubt. So yeah, that's certainly interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yes, I can. I've only. I think I've only owned him. This is the first week I've ever owned Brendan Johnson, and well, I'll heartily recommend getting him in. He's very, very good. Semenyo is next. I've included him, obviously, just as a benchmark. Created 7 chances, 7 shots on target, minutes for expected goal involvement every 162 minutes, just below Johnson there. Has got assists, has got 3 goals, so it's 4 attacking returns. He's 5.7. He's up against Arsenal. We've just conceded to Southampton and Leicester. He's first on my bench, but I would not rule out an attacking return for him. It's just the next 3 really after that. So it's the next 2 after that. Aston Villa away. I actually think that's worse fixture for him. And then Man City at home. I'm not sure he could get a return, but it's then afterwards. So yeah, the next 3. I mean, he's definitely benchable or get riddable for there. But I mean, are you tempted just to keep and play him anyway?
Not really, not really. I just when there's City and Arsenal involved, I'll always take the attackers out because I'll always back those
Okay.
teams for clean sheets, even if they're not keeping
Mm.
too many at the moment. The numbers will suggest that the chances will be high. This is an example of where I like your team structure more than mine because you can hide Semenyo for a couple of
Yeah.
weeks and then you've got him back for Brentford, Brighton, Wolves. Whereas because I've got Mikalenko as first sub, who I don't want to start, then I'm kind of more forced into making a transfer for Semenyo, which is I knew that at the wildcard time, and I can make peace with that. And Semenyo can always come back in later.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no doubt he's a fantastic player. And like you said, wouldn't be a surprise to see him wipe out a few big clean sheets over the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a goal of my first sub unused for the last 2 weeks since my wild
It's
carded.
happening then.
So yeah, guarantee lock that in, lock Semenyo's goal in. McNeil is the sensible choice. He's the guy you mentioned at the start. Everton are top of the fixtures. Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford, Manchester United, and Wolves. They have faced up to game week 14. He's 5.6, perfect. You can swap him easily. 23 chances he's created. He's got 2 assists, 3 goals. Arguably, you would think Everton will get better as they go with those better fixtures. Their baseline bonus is good for him, but every 5.9 minutes there. That's the best on this list. And 5 shots on target. I mean, these are great. These are great stats. Yeah, I think you said like if you had to make that move like now, this second, you would just go right. I'll get McNeil in.
Yeah, that was before I clicked the buttons and looked at the
Yeah.
much more exciting Brennan Johnson, Rico Lewis approach. But yeah, McNeil has always kind of been earmarked as a Semenyo replacement, having a great season. Then I look at my team and I think I've got Calvert-Lewin, I've got Mikalenko. What am I doing with my life? Why do I want triple Everton? I'm looking for pain over the course of the future weekends in that case. But taking that away, McNeil's a great option. He's great value. I thought Calvert-Lewin would be the same, but he's not doing it just yet. Yeah, McNeil. It probably if all else stays the same injury wise during the international break, it'll come down to Semenyo to McNeil, or probably that Brennan Johnson, Rico Lewis
Yeah.
route. And Rico Lewis could be someone else because I've got 0.5 million extra for that as well. So yeah, big fan of McNeil this season.
I think what we'll do next week, we'll have a recap on the talisman, see if they're still the talisman that they were a few weeks back, and also to see if they're unexpected as well, because there were unexpected ones like Traore and McNeil for Everton. So let's see if they still are the talisman there. Souček is next. He was the talisman for West Ham. I would hope it's Bowen now. But Souček, 5 million, another darling of the goals imminent tables. But he's got 3 attacking returns. He's 5 million. He's just a massive lump who scores goals and is an annoyance in the penalty box. Just for 5 starts, though, baseline bonus is strong. I think Traore, for me, if I had no money or I wanted to free up some money, I think Semenyo to Traore would be my move. But I think about Souček. People will look at this and they will get comments below going, Souček, what are you smoking for suggesting him? But he's got 3 attacking returns. He's only 5 million.
Yeah, and I always say people who are new to FPL, he got 10 goals, I think it was one season. He was
Amazing.
5 million, 4.5 or 5 million. He was really, really good. Everyone had him that season.
I had a setup where he was my I had
Seventh attacker.
7th attacker, so I had to play him. I had an even cheaper player, so I had to play Souček. And every week he would score, and I would get his goal and his points, and and no one else did, because no one else is going to play Souček, and that's the same as happening again.
Yeah, he's showing signs of that this season, of the old Souček just arriving at the right time, and we know he's a giant, and he knows how to stick his head and get the ball in the back of the net. But again, it comes back to the alternatives around the same price. I keep mentioning Rodgers because if people don't have him, he should be your number one. And again, Traore, I just think Souček, you're all in on goals, whereas Traore offers you both. He's creative and he can get you goals, hopefully, if Pep Guardiola has his way. So yeah, Rodgers 1, Traore 2, Souček 3 in that kind of 5 million to 5.2 price range.
A little bit more. The West Ham midfielders are starting to get some attention. Bowen in particular finally got the big haul that we expected of him. But Kudos 6.3 million and Paqueta 5.9. Chances created, Paqueta 8, Kudos 5. Both strong, okay on baseline bonus as well. Shots on target, Kudos is the main man there. So Paqueta's more the creative man. They are options, and they're cheap. 6.3 for Kudos, Paqueta 5.9. It's Kudos is getting all the starts, and Paqueta has been dropped once. And also I read that he's got some sort of betting type issue hanging over him, but I don't think that's being in any way sorted until at least March. So he's absolutely fine from no bans or anything like that.
Yeah, that's been lingering on for quite a while. I wasn't sure of what was happening with that, so good to get an update. The West Ham should be performing a lot better with the quality of attackers they have in particular. Bit of a shame that Füllkrug hasn't really been fit yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully he is after the international break, because if he's up top, I know Antonio was good in the most recent game, but if Füllkrug starts playing through the middle, I think that will just improve the likes of Kudus, Bowen and Paqueta. But again, look at the fixture ticker. I don't really like the look of that. Tottenham, Man United, Forest, Everton, Newcastle, Arsenal.
Yeah.
To me, there's no easy fixture in there for an attacker.
No, I mean,
even Everton are decent at the back, so.
Yeah, Leicester, but that's not until game week 14. So yeah, they're still a watch for me, but options, especially if you're a West Ham fan.
We're keeping an eye on for sure.
Yeah. Final name Smith Rowe, 5.8. Yeah, I mean, he was the one I reluctantly got rid of my wild card. I think many other people did as well. Was benched against City, but you expect him to play in favourable home games. 3 attacking returns so far. Minutes of expected goal involvement every 208 minutes. And this is the key, substantially below Traore. So yeah, Smith Rowe is good for bonus, but so is Traore. And Traore's getting it's the same amount of returns, 3 returns, but he's just expected to be more involved, and he's cheaper as well.
Yeah, Smith Rowe versus Traore for me. I still think it's worth paying the extra. Is
Mm,
it extra point 0.7 now? I know Traore's numbers are better here, but if you watch a game and you've watched a lot of
mm.
Traore and Smith Rowe, and you get someone, 15, 20 yards out with a shot straight at the goalkeeper, who do you want taking the shot? And it's going to be Smith Rowe all day long. He's just a much better finisher. Priori historically really struggles to put the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, I'm still very much interested in Smith Rowe. I didn't own him at the start like a lot of people did and did well out of him.
Mm.
And I still, again, I said it earlier, I think he'll be good value long term over the course of the season. Hopefully he doesn't pick up any injuries. But yeah, Smith Rowe is certainly on my mind as well for the Semenyo position.
Okay, let's move on to goalkeepers as well. We both got Flecken, both realising we're not going to get much more than a save point out of him. I do have Verbruggen to come in. So when Brighton's fixtures improve in game week 12, I'll switch to Verbruggen. So let's... and I'm not expecting any clean sheets there as well. So I've got some, once again, raided the Fantasy Football Scout members area for a table. I've sorted this by minutes per save. So this is in terms of them getting, how many, you want lots of save points basically. Also, I'll put clean sheets in, how many goals they've actually conceded, their cost, but also their XG prevented. So if they're in the plus, that's good. They're actively preventing goals being saved. If they're in the minus, they're actively conceding for their team. Top name is Kelleher, and I've included him because Allison is out for possibly about a month or so. Could be a couple of months. We're not actually sure, but it looks to be a hamstring issue. He's only 4.4. I got Keller in when this happened last season, and he was great. So he's got one clean sheet. He's at one start, one clean sheet. He's actively prevented 1.5 goals. He's only 4.4. I think he's a really good option for those that have got Flecken and whoever else they've got as a backup for Flecken. Just get Keller in and play him until Allison's out, and then just have Keller as the just sort of the non-player. Just spend 4.4 rather than 4.0.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about Kelleher until now. The Allison one does look, significant. He's punching the ground and all that, so it's probably something similar that he had before. Opens the door for Kelleher, but again, we talked about Liverpool, bottom of the ticker. I don't mind the bottom of the ticker as much for their attackers. It's more
Yeah.
clean sheet potential. And Kelleher is not Allison. We've got to remember that as well. It's not a like for like in terms of quality. So I think their clean sheet chances decrease big time when Allison's not there. We've seen it at the weekend. He made a lot of good saves
Yeah.
before he did get injured. So I probably won't go there. I went there as well last season I think I went there with Kelleher as a kind of bench boost plan, and it all just did not work out. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit scarred
Okay.
from that. And the other thing I don't like is if I go Kelleher from Flecken, and then need to make another goalkeeper transfer afterwards when
Yeah.
Flecken, when Allison's
Yeah.
back. So for that reason, I think he's okay for someone like yourself. He's got two goalkeepers. You could look at it, but for me with only one, I don't think I'll go there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the reasons I went for two. What one is because I'm okay with rotating, and I quite like the fact that Brentford's fixtures are really good until when they go bad or questionable. Brighton's fixtures improve, so that's why I did that. But it just so happens they're not too good on this. In fact, Verbruggen doesn't even feature on this list. His minutes per save was somewhere around every 35 minutes. Kelleher's every 12 minutes. The next one of a regular starter is the Leicester keeper, Hermansen. 4.5, 12 goals conceded. That's tricky. But he has got a clean sheet. Minutes per save rate, 18.5. And that's the best out of any of the ones that have started 7 games. XG prevented, he's actively prevented 4. I think that was all in that Arsenal game. But that's pretty strong. That's absolutely... So he's ticking a lot of boxes. And I sort of wish I'd gone for a player like this. That no one's going to get in. People, he's going to get the odd surprise clean sheet. He's just going to rack up lots of saves, and he might get bonus.
Yeah, he was incredibly good against Arsenal, and he kind of reminds me of Kaminsky at Luton last season. A cheap keeper, makes lots
Yeah,
of saves. A good cheap keeper. That's the key.
yeah,
A goalkeeper who,
yeah, yeah.
in real life, is actually a good stopper. He's quite young. I think he's got a good future. So, yeah, I don't mind it. Again, when you get a 4-5 goalkeeper, your expectations are low. I picked up Fleck and fixtures only. Absolutely the only reason to get him. And I usually I don't like changing goalkeepers until wild card, but I knew getting Flecken that I'd be here 2 weeks later, frustrated and being open to change. And I think the fact that we can roll more transfers now, it makes it a little bit easier to change a goalkeeper when it's not a wild card. So I'm definitely open to it because I fell into the trap before, last season before, of just having a goalkeeper who gets you 2 points every week and just being too patient. If your goalkeeper is your weak link, which they can be, don't be afraid to make a transfer. That's what I would say. And Hermansen is certainly one to consider. I still think I'd be looking elsewhere for more clean sheet potential, but
Yeah.
he's certainly in the reckoning.
Yeah, I mean, game week 12, when Arsenal's fixtures really improved, they got Nottingham Forest at home, West Ham, Manchester United at home, and that follows Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, which isn't too good for clean sheet odds there. I think I might be looking to just upgrade one to Raya and make that move then. But if I didn't, some of these names are good. Flecken, this shows how bad Flecken is as a choice for both of us. 13 goals conceded, the worst on this list. No clean sheets, amongst the worst on this list. Minutes per save, well, he's going to get 1 or 2 save points, so there is that, but he's conceding so much. 19.1 minutes a save. XG prevented minus 1.7. That's the worst on this list. So the XG prevented is an indicator of being a poor goalkeeper. And because, everything, apart from the 7 starts, everything on here is rubbish. We've messed up.
My big hope in FPL now is that Flecken keeps performing badly and Valdemarsson comes in and he's the next Buffon because I've got him on the bench. So that's my only hope.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that will save me from making a goalkeeper transfer.
Yeah.
If Valdemarsson gets a shot, because he certainly can't be worse as an FPL goalkeeper. Yeah, again, just fixtures, and I thought it was funny. It wasn't really funny as an owner, but I was watching the highlights of the Wolves game, and I think it was the third goal that Flecken conceded just went straight under him. I think it was Nathan Collins just put his hands over his face, and that just summed up every Flecken owner of what we think of him as a goalkeeper. So yeah, it's probably going to be a short stay for Mr. Mark Flecken.
Sanchez, who I keep reminding people was replaced by Jason Steele in the Brighton setup, and lots of strong rumours that he may be dropped at some point. Conceded 8 goals, a couple of clean sheets. Minutes per save every 19 minutes. So he's okay. XG prevented 1, which is obviously much better than Flecken. I would say he's a better choice than Flecken, but he's not a great choice.
Yeah, there's always concern with Sanchez. One bad game, they've got other goalkeepers, lots of them. Obviously, the other guys that Jorgensen plays in all the other competitions, so he's ready at any moment to step in. I know, Maresca seems to have 2 teams at the moment, but that doesn't mean that's going to be like that forever. If somebody in the B team is essentially performing exceptionally well, they're obviously going to step into the A team. So, Sanchez is just one to avoid, especially if you've only got one goalkeeper. Again, you're set up with 2, you can probably risk it, but yeah, I'd rather go Caldwell than Sanchez for a Chelsea defensive asset.
Definitely. Ex-Chelsea keeper Kepa is actually, I think, a good option in the future. He's only conceded 7 goals, but he has only had 4 starts because he's come in a bit later. His XG prevented is 0.5, so he's okay there. Bournemouth second to bottom of the ticker. They got Arsenal, Aston Villa, Man City, but then from game week 11 they got Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, Tottenham. Okay, they could concede in a few of those, but it's basically a sea of blue till Easter. So I think if you aren't just going to go for like a Flecken and a non-player, I would get Kepa, I think, because I think he's going to get the save points. I think there's going to be some clean sheets at some point for Bournemouth. They've had a really tough start, and I think they've got really 3 terrible games coming up. So yeah, Kepa.
I'm just laughing here because with every name you try and sell to me, I'm just like, just give me David Raya. Just give me Raya.
Okay,
it's like you're trying to sell me household products that I don't need, I don't want.
Right.
But Kepa's fine. They're all fine because they're only 4.5.
They're not Raya.
But they're not Raya.
Yeah, there's the difference. There's the difference in the price there. But okay, I'll race through the next 3. Pope, 5 million. Newcastle, 7 goals conceded, 2 clean sheets. And his XG prevented is 2.5. So he's a strong keeper there. While you give your opinion on Pope, I'm just going to close my door.
Yeah, the 5 million goalkeepers are, again, it's an area I try to avoid. I think I'd rather spend just 4.5 or make the step up to
Yeah.
David Raya. And the other thing about Pope is Newcastle haven't really been, convincing defensively so far this season. So, yeah, he might be the pick of the 5 million goalkeepers, but I expect to
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
bypass that price bracket and go to Raya.
Ramsdale, I'm going to just quickly go over because no one's going to get the Southampton goalkeeper. He's conceded 13, no clean sheets. Same as Flecken, who we went for. So we may as well have gone for Ramsdale, but his minutes per save is a bit lower. And unlike Flecken, Ramsdale is actively saving some goals there for Southampton. Next name is one I am considering, Johnston. If I don't go for someone like Eight Nori or Wolves goalkeeper, 13 goals conceded, no clean sheets, but they have had a really tough run. Minutes per save is okay every 23 minutes. He's actively preventing goals, minus 1.4, which is he's actively oh no, sorry. I'm getting my pluses and minuses rubbed up. So he's being a bit rubbish, as same with Flecken. But I am considering him if I don't go for someone like Eight Nori. But I do think Eight Nori for Wolves because Wolves fixtures really improve from game week 9 onwards. But Johnson is an option, but a bit like Flecken, his XG prevented's not great.
Yeah, and I think anyone who watched the Wolves Brentford game or watched the highlights would not be in a rush to buy Sam
No.
Johnson. I think he had a poor game. He was at fault for a couple of the goals, and they've got other goalkeepers there, Sa and Bentley,
Yeah,
who are decent goalkeepers. So there's always that small chance as well.
yeah,
So again, I think he's one. Again, Aitner is just so
yeah.
good going
Okay.
forward. So he's your defensive asset.
And final name on the list, most clean sheets, David Raya, but you've got to pay for it. 5.6 he is, 6 goals conceded, which is absolutely brilliant, with most out of any of the regular starters. 3 clean sheets, minutes per save, actually quite strong every 24 minutes. But it's usually about 30 every 35 minutes for a goalkeeper in a top team with a top defence. XG prevented 0.8, so you're pretty much on course, but could have done a little better. But he's starting every game. Yeah, he's the one. I'm trying to sell you some other guys, but this is the guy, and he.
Yeah, it's just I think my next few transfers will have David Raya in mind. It's just freeing up a little bit of cash and hopefully it gets
Right.
to whatever 1.1, 1.2 million, and then I can make the fleck into Raya switch whenever the time comes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I ultimately prefer to have Raya from game week 12 onwards, but I'm quite happy to go without him from now until game week 12. So we've got a bit of time.
Yeah, there's no rush.
Save up our pocket money. Let's have a look at next week. So we'll show this again next week, when we'll have some firm plans. But if you want to go through your team, I've highlighted, I've got a picture of Haaland there. So hopefully he's never blanked in 3 consecutive Premier League games. And he places Wolves, who, as we've seen, have got one of the worst defences at the moment. So yeah, take us through your team and sort of recap those decisions.
There's no chance he blanks against Wolves.
No.
That Wolves team at the moment are a mess. So I will eat this New York, what is it, Yankees hat if Haaland does not score at least one against Wolves. So I've got no concerns. Just for the benefit of the audio listeners, again, the team, my bus team for game week 8, Flecken in goal, away to Manchester United. Not great. Trent at home to Chelsea. Double Arsenal defence, away to Bournemouth. I've got Palmer, Saka, Semenyo, Mbeumo, and Rodgers in the middle. And Haaland currently has the armband with Calvert-Lewin playing Ipswich. So I like that fixture for Calvert-Lewin. Hopefully Funny does something. And on the bench, it's Mikalenko, Greaves, and Chiwomi, not worth looking at. So again, 2 free transfers. Semenyo to McNeil and Roll is the obvious one, the simple one.
Yep.
But as we seen earlier, Semenyo can become someone like Brennan Johnson by downgrading Saliba to a Rico Lewis, or maybe even someone a little bit cheaper if I want to, get Raya in sooner by saving up some extra funds. But yeah, again, I was having a look there. I skipped forward. Man City, they don't play until the Sunday, which is frustrating. So probably not going to get any Rico Lewis team news on the day of the game we get deadline. But even at that, I knew when I went on the wild card, I went with Mikalenko, knowing that I might go Lewis at some point. And if Rico Lewis gets 0 minutes, Mikalenko against Ipswich is fine, providing he's recovered from his injury. That's the main thing. But even Greaves is at home to Everton, which is not too bad.
Yeah, I was going to say that with Greaves, I think that is a good option there. I mean, I think looking at the the game week coming up. I think obviously Ipswich away is quite a good one there. So yeah, for those watching who've got Semenyo to McNeil, no money in the bank, just that's a fairly sensible move. But for you, definitely, if you've got the option to get a Spurs attacker, and I think their attack is still is they've got great fixtures and it's very strong. Brennan Johnson or Solanke. I don't think with your setup you can get Solanke, but you can get Brennan Johnson. So yeah, as you said, it sort of feels when a move feels like a no-brainer, there's a reason for that.
I said earlier, if the deadline was in 5 minutes, I would get Dwight McNeil. If the deadline was in 5 minutes from now, I would get Brennan Johnson, Rico Lewis.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah. I
There you
think
go.
I would in your position as well. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back again next week. We'll have a look at some more stats. Possibly, I think we'll sort of catch up on see who the talisman are for teams because they may have changed. And we'll also get some firmer thoughts because injuries and the such like over the internationals might have altered your thoughts there. Hope it's been of use to you watching and listening. Good luck with your plans for game week 8. But we'll be back next week with some firmer plans there. Take care, good luck, and see you soon.
Bye bye.